Hi there. In this video, we will complete the discussion about the evidence-based information. But just before we go through the final part of this chapter, I need to make a good recap of what we covered in the previous two lectures. The first part is evidence is not isolated from the fraud examination process. No, it is part of it. And before we jump into the evidence, first we need to be aware of the fraud triangle that has the opportunity, the pressure, and the justification. And then we need to know the process of the fraud transaction, how it happens. First, we need to know the act of fraud, and then we need to know the concealment of the asset that has been stolen and the conversion. And once we do that, then we need to identify which evidence we need to collect in this process. It could be document, and the document is very good because it's accurate, sustainable, and it could be verbal, like interviewing and deposition, and it could be observation, watching what's going on. Also, it could be collection of a statement like the currency transaction statement report. And this is for the cash transaction that exceeds certain amount, like $10,000 or so. So the collection of the evidence, it's a process and it needs experience to do that. But in this video, I will talk about how can I get a red flag that there is unusual amount of cash came to the fraudster or not. We do this through the net worth of the fraudster or the bank statement of the fraudster or the normal cash fund and expenditure. In the previous lecture, I talked about the net worth, but I thought it's good to go back to this method to explain it in more details. So let us go to the presentation here. Yep, here you go. This statement here, it shows from where the fraudster or the criminal get assets. And here, as you can see, we see all the assets that the fraudster or the person, the criminal, has over the years, and where are the liabilities are going to, and the difference between the assets. And when I say assets here, it's cash plus anything owned by the criminal. And when I say liability, it's either short-term or long-term liabilities. The difference between them, we call it net worth, which is like the owner's equity, if you would like to say. This method will show me if the fraudster or the criminal has unusual, or what we call it, income from unidentified sources. And because, for example, if the criminal is working, the income is identifiable. But if for some reason the fraudster had a car came from cash payment that we cannot get any guess that where this cash is coming from, we call it unidentifiable asset. And the net worth method is very good because we can use it for 1 year or we can use it for a portion of the year. And this is the good thing about using this method. We can come at any time, calculate the assets of the fraudster, the liabilities of the fraudster, and the net worth, and we can split the difference between identifiable sources and unidentifiable sources. The next point is that, as I said, this method is easy. We can make it for a less period of time, but also it can help the fraud examiner to make brief calculation, what we call it quick and dirty analysis. We can make a quick calculation and we can tell if there is any source of income that we cannot allocate the origin of that income. And this can help the examiner to confront the criminal or the fraudster with some kind of analytical results. The other thing, which we call it here, the the source of fund, yeah, the expenditure and the inflow, and this screen is extension to the previous one. So I'm not going to spend time. It's just explaining here the application of fund, from where it comes, and the source of fund. But the next one is the bank record, and this is what I need to explain it in more details. In the bank record here, I don't make any calculation as I did in the net worth method, but I take the bank statement of the potential criminal. And it's a hybrid method. Why we call it hybrid? Because we use all the deposits and withdrawal from the bank statement and the cash, from where the cash is coming, which comes in addition to the bank statement. And what we do is we add all the deposits that came to this criminal within a certain period of time, and it's very clear on the bank statement, but we can also add any cash expenditure that doesn't come out from the bank statement. So if the person has salary that comes by the end of the month, but in addition to the salary, I see the person purchase a very expensive car from cash that we don't know where this cash is coming from. And this is what you can see it here in the screen. We get the deposit plus cash expenditure not paid by the bank. And this will raise up a question mark from where the person get the cash if it doesn't come out of the bank. So we can check here any like cash coming from different sources or different transactions. And by the way, I'm going to show you later that we have legitimate sources of cash that can come outside the bank. Like, good example, if the person has inheritance from his parents, or if the person received a gift. So those are legitimate sources, but I need to keep it in mind until I find out. And then we get the deposit from the bank, we get the expenditure of cash that comes up from outside the bank, and then we subtract all the different sources, the income from different sources. The difference between them, we call it unknown sources. And this is what you can see it here. So this bank method or bank record method, we get it for the whole year. And as you can see it here for the 12 month, we get all the deposits that came to this account, plus any saving or deposit to the IRA accounts. And this will give me the legitimate source of income that comes to the credit, plus cash expenditure here that we don't know from where this cash is coming from. We add them together. So we add 123,000 plus 75,000, we get 198,000. So this is all the income that came to the criminal, whether from the bank statement or any other source. And then we do the same for the next year here. And from all these deposits, then we see the legitimate source, the known source of income. So here we get a total of 110 that comes from loan and consulting income. Then we subtract 198 minus 110, we get 88 from unknown sources. And the same thing for the next year. We get the total cash spent 239 minus 115, we get 124. So here what I'm trying to show is two different methods. One, we call it net worth, the other one, the bank records. The third method is the cash account. The cash T account, which is the available cash. And here we check any amount of cash that has been paid or spent more than the income that came to the person, because we cannot spend more cash than what we receive. So this is a very simple way to check the in and out of cash. Now, as I said, the cash can come to the criminal person through legitimate sources, and the fraud examiner has to make defense and rebuttal for those sources. And good example, this cash could come from legitimate sources from the prior year. So when I tell you here the net worth or the bank statement, it's for this year. but maybe there is some cash came to that person last year that has not been included in the bank statement and is still under the custody of the criminal person. Another source is gift or inheritance that have been gained by the criminal person during this year. Another one, loan. Maybe the person has received a loan and this loan has not been included in the bank statement. The last one is lottery or gambling winning or any other source. So remember, the unknown sources don't have to be illegitimate. It could be legitimate sources, but again, we need to search for the information for them. How can we find the information? Well, nowadays with the big data and the governmental data set can be achievable for the fraud examiner through different database can find out about those sources of income. So there is open sources that can provide information to the examiner, and the data and the information are ethically neutral, which means the data either in the net worth method or the bank statement method do not tell me any accusation or any justification for what the criminal person done. It's just neutral. And what we need to do is to make some analysis for this information to come up with a case to be presented in the court. We need subpoena to obtain records from local, county, state, and federal government. So remember here, if we need to get access to the personal assets of the criminal person, we need to get subpoena from the court. Also, we need to get search and warrant if we need to go to the house of the person and try to search his house for different types of evidence. As I said, nowadays we can, through the subpoena, we can get access to the personal data of the individual through the city government database or the county or the state or the federal or any other database. So remember here, most of the people, they work in forensic accounting and fraud examination. They know the different ways and permission they need to get access to this data. The last point is the internet. The internet, we can find some information through the public search engine. They are available. And also the discussion group, the social media, the communication of emails between the individual criminal and the other members, either inside the organization or outside, can be helpful. Also, any unanimous remailers can be a good hint for the person to collect some data. So this is the final part of this chapter about the evidence-based information. Evidence is very essential because if the court doesn't admit and authenticate our evidence, the fraud examiner cannot build up any case and he can lose the case. I hope you find those 3 small lectures are useful to explain to you the types of evidence we need to collect and how we can present them in our court case. Thank you. Bye-bye.